Welcome to the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we connect Black families to Black therapists. On Mondays, you will receive direct therapeutic support from a licensed therapist or professional connected to the mental health field. They will provide therapeutic and educational resources to help you have a healthier relationship with your family members. On Wednesdays, you will receive direct tips and resources to help you get through the stuck places that prevent many people from having the relationships with their families and significant others that they desire. On Fridays, we want you to visit our blog, which can be found at www.blackmftmatters.com, which holds additional resources and action steps that you can begin implementing immediately to improve your relationships. This is necessary because we love that you are listening, but we want you to take action too. While you are there, please grab our A to Z Relationship Bootcamp and be provided with the skills you need to immediately communicate better within your relationships. Please note that while the therapists on podcasts are therapists, they do not serve as your therapist unless you have signed a confidential agreement with them confirming that relationship. Thank you in advance for listening, and we hope you are inspired. All right, it's time for the show. Here is your host, Dr. Connie Omari.
Hey, and welcome to the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we connect Black families to Black therapists. Today's guest is Laurine LeBlanc. Hey, Laurine.
Hi, Connie. How are you, Dr. Connie?
How are you?
Great.
Well, I don't want to insult you by using your maiden name. I heard you just got married. So how do we introduce you correctly?
So it'll be Mrs. LeBlanc-White.
Mrs. LeBlanc-White. There we go. Awesome. So let me introduce our amazing audience to you. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
All right. Mrs. LeBlanc-White is a licensed clinical mental health counselor. She has extensive experience in the mental health and emotional health field. She provides short-term, situational, problem-solving, non-medical, walk-around life counseling services to active duty military members and their families. Her professional background also includes child and youth behavioral counseling, along with clinical therapeutic services to children, adolescents, and adults with identified mental health diagnoses. As a mental health counselor, new author of the book Unapologetically Resilient, conference speaker, business owner, wife, and mother of three, she still has found time for education. She is pursuing a PhD in education and leadership.
Yes.
Wow.
There you go.
Do your thing. Wow, that is awesome. So tell me, what kind of got you into this? Because you clearly have a lot of experience in doing this type of work.
So they say that 70% of people that are in the mental health field have experienced trauma themselves. So we have a spirit of helping.
I didn't know that.
And healing. Yeah. I learned that a long time ago. And I was like, you know what? This is why I'm so drawn to this profession. Mm-hmm. I've always had that spirit of just wanting to help people. Mm-hmm. And even if I had, like, my stuff wasn't together, I always want to help someone else. So so that's what brought me here, and is experiencing a whole slew of traumatic events myself, ranging from, molestation, physical abuse, mental abuse, bullying.
Wow.
All types, an array of things, which led me to this profession.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I always appreciate when our therapists come on the show and they want to be vulnerable. Because a lot of times I think people have this perception that, well, you're educated, you have your own business, you've written a book. There's no way that you know what I'm going through.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like it's the exact opposite.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like the more stuff we go through, the more helpful we are to the individual. So we have this misconception that we're superheroes and we haven't been through anything. I've heard that before, but that's far from the truth.
Not the case. So you wrote a book.
Yes, I did.
Unapologetically Resilient. Whoop, whoop. Yes. So, can I assume that might be some of your testimony that you're referring to?
Definitely. I talked about a slew of things that I've been through, how I got out of it, and how God was literally the person behind everything. Because there was a point in my life where I felt like He left me. I felt like, God, where were you when a lot of these experiences were happening? But sometimes in the quietest moments is where we know that God is working the hardest, right? So He's never left me, and everything just all worked out for me. So yeah, and I became resilient, and I felt like a lot of people needed this book. Around this time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I think that you've already touched on something that we see a lot in the show, and I think is going to be very helpful to kind of clarify, because you're clearly a therapist, working on your PhD, so you value the sciences.
Yes, I do.
That importance of God is ever present. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, I mean, oh my goodness, and for people not to understand God for themselves is I don't know. I've experienced Him so much, to the point where I know that He's real, and I understand the perspective of there's no God, there's just only science. And I'm like, maybe they haven't experienced Him on the level yet that I've experienced Him.
I wonder, I say the same thing too. Like, I don't have a heaven and hell to send anybody to, but sometimes I listen to what people say, and I'm like, either you, and I think it's one of two things: either you have not been experienced by God, either you have been experienced by, had your experience with God, or you haven't had your experience with God yet.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's coming.
It's coming, and then you're like, okay, wait a minute, this has to be. He's here. He's real. And I had too many of those experiences not to believe Him. Yeah.
Very good. But yet you're still in your profession, and you're still helping people through the physical sciences. Yeah,
because you know what God said is faith without works is dead. So not only relying on the faith, but rely on the work. And I feel like as therapists, we do the work, right? It's essentially, it's like believing that, only believe in God, not go to the doctors. You can't do that,
Like what?
Doctors are, faith without works is dead. So God wants you to use Him, but He also wants you to utilize other people as well. So yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
Is any one thing in your book that, I know you don't want to give us a spoiler, but is there something that just stands out that if a person read it, or when they read it, they will definitely walk away with knowing more about
God in general? Yeah, so I had a moment where it was before my friend passed away, and she was excited about starting her new journey. She was going to move to Raleigh, and she was going to start a new job. And I was sitting on the couch with her, and I felt the Spirit say, tell her you love her, right? And we had a friendship, but it wasn't like that friendship where you're like, hey girl, I love you. And I say that to all my friends, but some friends you just don't say that to. So instead of me being obedient to the Spirit, I just looked at her, and we just had this weird pause. Like, we're just looking at each other, because I knew I was supposed to say something, but I never said it. So she's looking at me like, girl, what you looking at? And why are you looking at me?
Right.
So it was like,
why are you looking like that?
What's wrong with you? And that was the last time I saw her. So like,
I feel like I saw you post about. Did you make a post about this on Facebook?
I may have. I don't remember that, but I may have. But I definitely wrote that in my book, because I will never forget it. And that's when that was like one of the moments when I knew God was real. I was like, man, He's real. Like, I don't like, for something to tell her you love her, and that's the last time I see her. So like, that taught me like one or two things. Like, be obedient to God, because when He talks to you, listen and do what He tells you to do. And two, like, He knows your begin and end date. Like, He knows when you're about to pass. Like, there's an expiration date there. And He knew in that moment that was the last time I was going to be with her. And I'm like, and once you have like one or more experiences like that, science, what? Like, science is there, but I mean, God is He's supernatural, honey. Like,
He made the sciences, okay? Like,
hey.
I love it. What's one thing you wish Black families knew about being resilient?
You know what? I think Black families have the concept that we have to be strong all the time, right?
Absolutely.
But in order to be resilient, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be open. And then when you feel that resistance of, I don't want to change, I don't want to be open, then that's where the work needs to come in. So
that's so good. A lot of times we fight back things like tears.
Yes. Yeah.
When a conversation is difficult, we walk away.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's always a resistance there. So I want you to like kind of push through that resistance and be open to healing. And then on the other side of that, that's when you can become resilient.
What would you say about our history, specifically slavery, where being vulnerable was dangerous?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like being vulnerable was dangerous. We had to basically do what the slave master told us to do, show no emotions. We had to be strong. And in a way, it's been embedded in us. It's trauma filled and it's in our genes to be that way. For instance, I read an article about a guy, I don't know where I got it from, and his daughter ran to him after she was raped by a slave master. And instead of comforting her, he slapped her, he hit her because he couldn't do anything about that. You know, he in that moment, he didn't have his manhood, right? He had to step up and save his daughter. So he fought instead of coping.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been taught these unhealthy.
And that to me sounds like, what's the difference between somebody raping one of our daughters in the church,
right?
We brushing it under the rug, or we say, oh, that couldn't happen because that's Pastor so-and-so or Deacon, so-and-so.
Yeah. So
we're doing that now.
Yes, we are. In a sense, we're like, okay, be quiet about it. Shut up about it. Don't
mess him up. He's, a pastor.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like it's in our own homes, like even the uncle or the dad that's doing it to the kids. I mean, let's not talk about it. We don't want to look bad in front of people. I mean, but it's killing us on the inside.
Where do you see Black families struggling the most with resilience?
Oh, man. We're struggling the most with resilience because first, we're not identifying or wanting to admit that we need the help, right? So we're not being able, because resilience is not something that we're born into, it's something that we become, right? In order to become resilient, we have to go through a chain of events. First is admitting. So first we have to admit, okay, I do have a problem, right? I'm not weak because I say that I have a mental health issue or, that I need some type of spiritual guidance, or I need something, right?
Right.
Once we open our mouth and admit it, then we can get to the healing part of it. And then we can get to the side of resilience. So that's the piece that we're missing.
One of the things that I've noticed, and I'm curious about your feedback, is, and I'm in my own season of it, but sometimes we get to a place in life where we don't want adversity.
Right. Yes.
You don't want adversity. And I'm like, but if you don't have adversity, then how do you become resilient? Like you need the problem before you can find your strength.
I love how you said that. And that's why I try to tell a lot of people that prepare for the storms, right? Like just kind of like an eagle. The eagle, he prepares for the storm, right? He knows it's coming and he tries to rise above it. He doesn't run away from it. And then as human beings, we have to understand that adversity is coming, whether we like it or not. It's how we perceive it. It's how we view the adversity. And that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. What are 3 resources that you think, or I always say 3, but it can be less, but do you know of any resources that people can turn to, Black people can turn to kind of help them be more resilient?
Oh yeah, definitely. Another Black therapist.
That part.
I always say some type of spiritual guide. For me, that's my everything, so a spiritual guide, a therapist, a life coach. Those are I think those are what Black people can turn to. But if you're saying, hey, I don't have the money, what can I go? I can't afford a therapist. There's people that do it for pro bono. Also podcasts.
Hello. Hey.
YouTube. There's coaches all over the place. So utilize everything that you can utilize.
Yes. Is there anything that you've read or listened to recently, maybe a podcast other than this one that you might inspire people?
Yours is definitely one of the top, but yes, girl, I love her. But I listen to a lot of sermons. I love Steve. I love Eric.
Who's
Steven, he's out of Raleigh.
Stephen Furtick.
Yes, he's
He
amazing.
has a podcast. I watch him on YouTube. He has a
podcast. He just has a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, he's very inspirational. Yeah.
I love him. Sarah Jacobs Roberts.
But now that girl has an anointing on her. Girl. And you talking about adversity.
Girl, and been through a whole lot, so she can come out of it and become resilient. You can,
Exactly. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, so those to name a few.
Yes. What is a common myth that you think Black people hold about resilience that you just really want to debunk?
That they can't get there.
Yeah. That it'll always be this way.
Yeah, it'll always be this way. And it's okay. Like it's okay to fake the funk, right? But a lot of times as Black people, we learn to mask so much that we've got good at it, right? So where we look good on the outside, but on the inside, we are a wreck.
A hot mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they just become okay with it. Like, okay, as long as on the outside I look good, I'm not really worried about the inside. But the myth, that's a myth. That's a huge myth.
It is.
It is. So important. It's equally important to work on that inside. Feel happy.
Well, we're one of the biggest consumers in the country, and we make the least amount of money.
Girl.
So, we will get our hair and our nails done, but we'll go home to a man that beats us. I'm just
conditioned to do that. You know what I'm saying? We've been conditioned, no matter how we feel physically. And I hate to say it, but we have people that are extremely unhealthy, but their hair and nails are done. So we're not physically taking care of ourselves. We're not mentally taking care of ourselves, but we look good. Hair, nails are done. It's we're not investing in it. And a lot of people are saying I can't afford it, but yes, you can. Those nails you get done every 2 weeks, girl, that's a session.
What? I'll do one. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And let me just show this real quick. I think I moved it. Well, you can't see it, but I'm showing Laurine my pack of nails.
I love that lime green.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just showed her some lime green nails. I know the audience can't see it, but I put some glue on them bad boys and stick them bad boys on for a couple of dollars.
Girl, yes.
Yes, and I kind of I'm not, if you want to invest in a manicure and, a professional thing, you can, but I'm just saying there's ways that you can go about doing it and budgeting your money so that maybe for those nails, now you can't afford a therapy session,
On my thing a couple of years ago were lashes, girl, I had to get them every 2 weeks. And I was like, Laurine, what is wrong with you? You don't need to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing, and I know, and I'm not trying to throw any shade, but I think this is a very important time to kind of insert this. If you ever want to see some of the nicest cars and vehicles, you can drive through the projects. And I'm not.
Dr. Connie, no lie, it was a trailer with a BMW, and I'm like, Lord,
yes,
that is not it. So why are you investing in it? And it's just because it's that outside image. When they go out of town or when they're going to the city, it's that outside image. And it's
in fact, I get to when people buy clothes to go out of town. I'm like, right. People don't even know your regular clothes. And you buy clothes to go to the beach.
And it's I had someone tell me why do you have these high-end shoes or heels? And I was like, well, you live in North Fayetteville, or at the time I was in Fayetteville, I'm in Sanford now. And I was like, you can buy these things and live anywhere. I travel. It's just negative misconception.
Yeah, just because you live in a small area doesn't mean that you don't have a big reach or that you don't. Yeah. So, and if that steps on anybody's toes, we're being a little sarcastic, but the point is, we want to, if you put that type of investment in your mental health, as opposed to your physical health or your physical appearance, because you pointed out, a lot of us aren't even working on our physical health, then that energy and that investment will be better well spent.
It really will in the long run. In the long run, it really will. And it helps not just you, but it helps your generations to come. Family doesn't realize that the mental health starts with the patriarchs and the matriarchs, the moms and the dads. It trickles down. You have the ability to stop generational curses through getting your mental health in check.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we're coming to a point in the show, Laurine, where it's called What's Good. And what I do is give a hypothetical situation. And I propose that for you, and I give you an opportunity to use your clinical insight to help us through it. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Good. Meet Jane. Jane is a young African-American woman who is very ambitious and into supporting and helping underserved populations.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
Jane has found herself in a crisis situation that has led to an investigation that causes her to question her purpose in her relationship with God. Okay. How would you advise her to tap into her God-given strengths and talents to be resilient while helping her to still keep the faith and courage to do what she knows that God has called her to do?
Ooh, yeah, that's big. You know, a lot of times when we're doing God's work, the enemy would come in, right? The enemy comes to confuse, destroy anything that has anything to do with God's will. Mm-hmm. So I would try to tell her that, you know, do your best not to allow anything to interfere with God's work, right? So you have the ability to stand on God's word mm-hmm. and use that as your power and your might. Mm-hmm. And understand that adversities are going to come. Mm-hmm. Challenges are going to come. But when we are doing his work, nothing's going to stop you. Yeah. We may be deterred, right? We may have to go another way around the route that we would like to, mm-hmm. but we're going to ultimately get God's work accomplished.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we do appreciate that, Laurine. Before we go, I want to make sure that you've left our audience with as much information about where we can buy your book or where we can work with you or where we can find you online. So let us know. How do we find you?
All right. So LaurineCEO.com. So LAURINE CEO.com. My book is also on Amazon. Under Laurine LeBlanc. Unapologetically Resilient. This book has helped so many people. You guys read the reviews.
I'm sure. Oh, that's awesome. I'm actually going to get me a copy myself. I'm also going to leave a link to those books in our show notes. So, you can just go there and you can find it as well. Are there any final words you'd like to leave with our audience, Laurine?
You guys, being resilient doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen. I want you to start mind shifting. Don't believe that you cannot get to where you want to be. It starts with what you're telling yourself.
There you go.
Mind shift.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. You've been a pleasure, and I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we connect Black families to Black therapists. Since you've listened all the way through, come on in and join the family. If you haven't done so yet, please join our free community where we offer weekly trainings and monthly giveaways. We can be found on Facebook under the Black Marriage and Families Matter Facebook group. And since you're serious about joining our family, we also invite you to join our All In campaign, which signifies your commitment to go all in, not only for yourself, but in helping us reach more people by downloading this podcast wherever you are listening to it, leaving us a review, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. This really helps us reach more people and change more lives. After all, Dr. Martin Luther King once said, we can all get more done together than we can apart. With that said, I want to encourage you to share this episode with just 3 other people who you think might also benefit from our community and what we are offering, with the hopes that all of you can join our All In campaign. When you're done, simply click the link All In campaign in the bio and receive a free copy of my course entitled Goodbye Toxicity, which is valued at $297. This course will help you to work through some of the difficult experiences that arise in most of our relationships, and it's completely free to you with your commitment to join our All In campaign. We look forward to connecting with you every Monday and Wednesday. Thanks for listening.